TOGAF standards, right? So how these all these concepts fitted into our TOGAF standard. So let us first talk about what is TOGAF standard. So TOGAF standards. See, when you are thinking about enterprise architect, so you are thinking about the TOGAF or TOGAF standards. So TOGAF is the best practice framework. Okay. So TOGAF is what? It's a framework. Framework. It's a best practice framework for enterprise architect. So if you want to apply those terminologies like building blocks, partitioning, abstraction level, go with the TOGAF standards, right? So whenever you are using these TOGAF standards, right? So you are basically can create any type of you can create any type of architecture in any context. So whenever you are using this TOGAF standard or this framework, so you can develop any kind of architecture for any in any context. Right? Now, how this TOGAF is basically developed? Who has developed this? So this is a um, community-driven framework, okay, which is under a specific, you can say, a body, right? But it is developed through collaborative collaborative efforts of the community. Right? Right. So now, if you are using TOGAF standard, then there could be a range of use cases. Okay. So there will be a range of use cases. Like you want agile enterprise. There you can use this. You are doing some digital transformation. There you can use this. So these are the use cases where you can use this TOGAF framework. Next, TOGAF standard, it describes a standard cycle of change. Okay, it defines a standard cycle of change. With the help of that, we can use to plan, we can develop, we can implement, we can govern, right? And we can sustain the architecture. Okay. So what it describes? It describes the standard cycle of change, how we used to plan, develop, implement, govern, change, and sustain an architecture. With the help of this, TOGAF framework, we can describe the building blocks. So building blocks, which is with respect uh, to enterprise. Okay, which used to deliver business services. Okay, used to deliver business services and your information or information system. Right? So as I mentioned that there is a ADM cycle which we will discuss right after this, right? So, right now, so TOGAF standard is for enterprise architect. It's a framework which can be used for any type of architecture for any context. It is a collaborative efforts from the community, those who have developed this. There are many use cases like agile enterprise, digital transformation. It is a standard cycle for change, and it describes the plan, develop, implement, govern, sustain the architecture. Building block to the enterprise level is also described in this TOGAF framework, and it is used to deliver the business services and the information system. Okay, so right. Now, um, if we talk about the TOGAF um, framework or TOGAF standards, so to which type of work it is suitable? So this is suitable for enterprise architecture. Okay, TOGAF standard is it is meant for enterprise architecture. Now, when we are saying how it is meant for enterprise architecture, so what it will do, it will help you or it enables the organization to operate in an efficient and effective way using a proven and recognized set of best practices to address the business and technology trends, right? So to operate in an efficient manner. And all whatever standards we are going to use, so those are already proven, right? So many organizations they are using it, right? So it basically efficient way and the best practice, right? For business and technology trends. Right. Now, when we are talking about TOGAF standard for enterprise level, so what it will do? So you can build a workable and economic solutions for your enterprise level or organization level. Risk management, gap analysis, then de-risk the architecture development, right, is the another purpose of this TOGAF standard, and which is again very much meaningful for enterprise architecture. Now, when we are having all these things into our enterprise architecture, so it gives you enterprise architecture as a consistent and also reflects the need of stakeholders and it employs the best practice and also it will consider the current state or baseline state and future states, future state needs for business. So that is why we say TOGAF standards are meaningful or more suitable for enterprise architecture. Any questions so far? No?
All good.
Yeah. So now, if we talk about the TOGAF standard, so here you can do it tailoring and integration. So for example, you want that some other frameworks is to be added into my TOGAF standard. That is allowed. Okay. So you can adopt the elements from other frameworks. Right? So you can adopt the elements from other frameworks. You can also not only adopting, if you want a replacement, right? If you want a replacement or extension of its deliverables, that is also possible for a specific set, okay? Not for entire TOGAF framework. You cannot replace entirely, but yes, is some set. So if something is defined by some other framework which is better or suitable for your project, then you can replace those also. Now, for example, you have a change management process. Let me ask one question. What is change management process? TOGAF, it has a phase which is for the change management. But forget about TOGAF. What are the other ways to create the change request? Which process you use?
I
For example, in your organization or in your project, whenever there is a change required, what process you follow?
ITIL. ITIL process.
Yes, ideal process, right? So in ideal process, we are having incident, change management, problem management, etc. Now consider you want to apply ideal process, right? You want to apply the ideal process to your TOGAF methods, okay, to TOGAF standards for the change management process. That is allowed. Okay, so integration is allowed. So far we were talking about the tailoring. Now integration. Integration is allowed. So if you want ideal, right, or some other standard frameworks, you want to integrate with TOGAF, that is allowed. Right? Now, which one we need to use? For example, if someone says that I want ITL, there are some other, COBIT is also one of them. Right? So if someone says, I want to use COBIT, someone says, I want to use ITL. So whatever is suitable for your organization level, right? So according to that, you need to do the integration. All right. So say an example, I'm using ServiceNow for ITSM process, and you are using some other tool, HP tools, right? So whichever is the standard and suitable to your organization structure, so you need to use that one. Not TOGAF framework, you can use as a standalone framework. You can use it as a standalone framework. It means this is a single framework, whatever the processes are defined in this. So that also you can use it. You don't want to integrate or tailor it. So that can be used as a standalone architecture. Right. So these terms are required to know. The reason is because uh, when we start working on TOGAF, so these terms will comes into the picture that whether we need to add ideal process for change management, whether I need to replace something which is already approved, right? So those things comes into the picture. Now, another thing which comes into the picture. Now, let me ask one thing related to your work. Say an example, you are supporting a project and that project has some documentation, some source code, some issues, some maybe some other documents. How do you, where do you keep these documents?
Maybe in GitHub.
Where?
In GitHub.
In GitHub, right? So what we call GitHub as
So version control.
repository.
Yep.
Yeah, version control repository, right? Where you keep tracking that what changes you have done. Or you may use the SharePoint, right? So you are using SharePoint to keep your documents on the SharePoint so that we can do a version control. Now, this is related to your project. Now we will talk about the TOGAF standard, how the means structures and documents. So the what are the different documents which are used in the TOGAF? Like initially, I think Raghu was asking that can we use the template? So what template, what document, right? So the if we talk about the TOGAF standards or its documents, so there are 6 documents. Let me just go to my repository. Maybe I have diagram. Right. So this is the TOGAF standard, you know, that ADM cycle, which we will discuss. Right. So, so this is what I was talking about, integration and tailoring. Now, this is what I'm talking about, the structure of TOGAF standard. So TOGAF standard is structured into 6 primary documents. Okay, so these are the 6 primary documents, each targeting a specific component of enterprise architecture. So what are these documents? So first one is introduction and core concepts. So it defines the purpose, scope, essential concepts of the TOGAF. Okay, so if you want to see so there is a TOGAF, you can say library. Uh, so the open group of, this is the official website, TOGAF standards. You see this one, download 10th edition if you want to download. So here you will see some document, and here you can see this is the ADM cycle, and the TOGAF. I think I have not mentioned ever the full form. The group, the open uh, group of architecture framework. So the open group, okay, enterprise architecture methodology, right? So here we will see this is the certification related. Uh, no, this is the Archimate, uh, not that one. Here you go. So this is TOGAF library, series guide, white papers, TOGAF standards, right? So you can see the open group library here, right? Where you will find the TOGAF standard, right? Guides, case studies, white paper, everything you will find it here. And there are many other things are there. So when you come over to this particular page, so you can find more details. So yeah, so there is a official website actually, and in that official website, you will find everything whatever I am teaching here. So now let us talk about that. TOGAF content structure. So introduction to the core concepts, which defines the purpose, scope, essential concepts of TOGAF. That kind of content you will find on that particular documentation. Architecture development method, which is the ADM cycle, architecture development method. It's a core iterative process for developing the enterprise architectures. ADM techniques were tools and the techniques that applying TOGAF principles and supporting ADM execution. So there are different phases, how those phases are to be executed. So those are defined under the ADM techniques. Applying the ADM techniques, how you will apply in different contexts, right? So guidelines to tailor the ADM for different contexts in the use cases. Architecture content framework, which defines the architecture deliverables, artifacts and building blocks, and enterprise architecture capability and governance details the organization roles, processes, governance, structures necessary to sustain the architecture practices. Right. So now, whenever you are using the TOGAF standards, so you need to follow these documents, right? So you need to know what is the, you need to know that what are the ADM guidelines, how to apply those guidelines. So when we are new at that time, we are basically learning all these things through those documents. We need to see that how the architecture content framework, where we can define the deliverables, artifacts, and building blocks, right? So that comes under the architecture content framework. Architecture that phases, these are the core concepts. It's like what is the scope that we have already discussed. These core concepts we have already discussed. Now ADM we will start, and in ADM we will find some um, TOGAF means how to see. For example, you are getting the requirement, right? So you cannot get the requirement without following the ADM techniques. We need to follow the ADM techniques. We need to define certain principles. We need to define certain templates. We need to define, you know, that governance, etc. So all these things are defined in our ADM cycle. For that, we need to follow the TOGAF content structure. Right. Now, next is the ADM supporting guidelines and techniques. Okay. Now, when we are talking about the ADM, right? So ADM is the architecture development method. Okay. So ADM cycle. So now ADM is not something which is account delivery management. Right? So when we talk about the TOGAF ADM, so it is supported by some extended set of resources, right? So there are some ADM. Uh, so it is supported by some extended set of resources. So what are those? First one is the TOGAF fundamental content documents, which is the, you can say, ADM templates, right? So templates. So for example, you are saying I'm creating one application and this is my CRM application. And there is another which is the customer care. So how CRM application is going to communicate with the customer care application? So that we need to give before taking the approval in the cab, uh, you know, those cabs. So what we need to do, we need to first present them that that is what we are going to do. For example, you are saying that I have a communication or app communication template. So you follow that template. Whatever is mentioned in that template, at those points, those headings, those definitions, which indicates that how this application is communicating with the other application. So ADM template, fundamental content, templates and resources are that guide you how to apply the ADM in practice. Right? Next is the practitioner approach. Real world practitioner advice and model for adapting the TOGAF ADM. So practice it more, add it into your day-to-day activities when you are designing. So that will help you to understand better this TOGAF ADM and you can apply it into your project. TOGAF series guides targeted the guides on how to use TOGAF in specific industry or context, like for the digital transformation, agile enterprise architect. Right? So we need to follow the TOGAF series again. You need to go to that documentation and you can just download the specific template. And time to time we will download and see the TOGAF standard templates when we are going to apply it. So, so these are the series. So basically, here you will see the guidance on how to use and adapt the ADM for specific needs. Right? For example, if uh, you are using a TOGAF for a project which is on-prem environment is to be migrated to cloud-based environment. So this is my one need, and according to that, I will follow this TOGAF series and guides. Your another project where you want to have different requirement. For example, there is a customer, banking customer, and banking customer is having certain requirement not only related to the migration, but there are some development, right? There are some using some standard tools, etc., etc. So for this, I will again follow the TOGAF series and guides. Now this time my target is something different, right? So you can use these TOGAF series and guides as per your requirement. There is something called white papers, right? So white papers, guides, or any technical things which is required, like we have seen, right? There's a Archimedes and there are other things which you can use for the TOGAF. And is there any guide for change management? Is there any guide uh, for business goal templates? So all things will be available in the TOGAF library. Okay. So I would say that the guidelines and techniques are defined separately on the basis of your requirement. And those points we will bring together and put it into our ADM or ADM cycle, which is the architecture development method. Okay. So each guideline and technique is described independently, so it can be referenced from the relevant ADM fields. Okay. So these are some standards. Let's talk about this TOGAF library little bit. So when we are talking about the TOGAF library, let me just do one thing. Yes. Right. So TOGAF library. So this is kind of TOGAF library. Now here the if you want to apply any change, right, or when you are following the TOGAF standards, so guidance material will be in the TOGAF library. Okay. So what it is doing, see here you can see pocket guide, white papers, reference architectures, reference cards, data sheets, guides, etc. So first of all, it comes with a TOGAF standard, right? So, so it accompanies the TOGAF standards. What it is doing, it is offering the guidance material to support the practical applications of TOGAF. Okay, so here you can see that ADM techniques applying. So ultimately, what it is having, it offers a guidance material to support the practical applications of TOGAF. So you can see that we are having the, for example, guidelines, templates, right? Or some pattern or some reference material, everything you will find under the TOGAF library. So for example, you want to create a new architecture for your enterprise. So you can use this reference material to start up or to accelerate the, the architecture for your enterprise. So this is not under your control. It is maintained under the governance of the open group of architecture form. So the open group of architecture forum, F, FORUM. So, so these are some standards which we need to know about the TOGAF. Okay. If you are clear to whatever we have discussed so far related to our TOGAF, let me ask some questions and you need to answer the question if you know it. Let me. You need to tell. You need to tell that, see, this is whatsoever we have discussed. On the basis of that, I'm asking. You need to tell which element is not, it does not belong to technology architecture domain. Technology not belongs to technology architecture domain. Number one, cloud service. Number two, data assets. Number three, say network elements. And number four, um, IT infrastructure. Tell me which one of these is does not belong to technology architecture domain.
Data assets.
Very good. To which domain it belongs to? Data domain, data architecture domain. Okay. Because cloud service is technology, network element is technology, IT infrastructure is a technology. So you're correct. Data assets is the answer. Now, tell me that which is not an example of an enterprise, okay, not the example of an enterprise as per TOGAF. Okay. So the options are multinational company, government body or government agency, maybe local market or the conference participants. Which one is not an enterprise as per TOGAF? Huh? It's easy, right?
It will be, is it conference participants or local
Correct.
market?
Correct. No, not the local. Local market can be an enterprise if you are making a project for the local market. So this is your organization. Government agency can be multinational company also. But conference participants, it is saying. So participants means people, right? So this is not organization, okay, or enterprise. So enterprise is your, all these three are the example. This is not.
Mhm.
All right. So now I think we are good to start our ADM part. So let us first understand that what is ADM. Let me go back to my notes. This landscape we have already discussed. Uh, you can just walk through this. We have already discussed this. Okay. So strategic and all this. All right. So this is our architecture development method. So whenever we are talking about this life cycle, so this is what it TOGAF, when we are using that TOGAF to architect our enterprise. So we are using these methods. We are using this life cycle actually. Now let us see that how many phases are there. Let's start from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we also consider this as the ninth phase. Right. So now why I left this? Maybe this is one ninth, right? This is 10th actually, ninth, 10th. So in this diagram, you can see that there are 10 circles. Okay. Actually, I made it 10th. It should be first one. Okay, or I'll say 0. So now let us understand which is not considered as the a phase that we will discuss that whether requirement management is the ADM phase or not, right? But later point, not now. So now, first of all, what is ADM or architecture, development, method. So with the help of this method, or with the help of this life cycle, what we are doing, we are developing and managing the life cycle of enterprise architecture. Okay. So with the help of that, what we are doing, we are developing and managing the life cycle of enterprise architecture. This is the core of TOGAF. So this is the core of TOGAF, right? And this is applied, or means if you are following the TOGAF standard, you definitely follow this cycle. So this is tested and repeatable process for developing the architecture. With the help of that, you can establish an architecture framework. So if you are planning to create an enterprise level of design roadmap, you need to follow this. Okay. So this is one of the standard which uh, company adapts, right? So they are already using this TOGAF framework, especially those who are the enterprise architect. With the help of that, what we can do, we can define the governance, whether it is in your baseline architecture, transition architecture, future state architecture. With the help of this, uh, we can transform enterprise um, we can transform the enterprises in a controlled manner with respect to business goals, business opportunity. And this is an iterative process. Okay? This is an iterative process. So it is continuous. For example, you have completed all the phases. Again, new requirement comes. Again, you can, you know, uh, you run this phases again. So that is basically the that is basically your um, ADM or architecture development method. Do you have any questions so far? Now, you see there are 10 phases. Okay. So when we are following these phases, we follow step by step. Preliminary phase, we define we take the requirement. architecture vision, we define the roadmap, business, and so on. So step by step, we follow this approach. It is not like that in waterfall methodology. Basically, what happens? You are in phase B, for example, and phase A is finished. So you cannot go back and make the changes in phase A. Here it is not like that. So uh, it is basically, if you find at any point of time, for example, here, opportunities and solutions. So here basically we see that technology, for example, there is a flaw, there is a gap. So you can say, okay, modify that. It could be in domain, it could be in technology, information, business architecture, anywhere. So you can go back and you can apply those changes and then come back to phase E again. Okay, but ideally we are creating step by step, A, then B, then C, then D, and so on. So each phase has further steps. Each phase is having further steps, right? So that we will discuss when we start talking about each phases. Right? Now, is there any hard and fast rule that we need to follow something as it is? No. So you need to adapt it according to the enterprise. And uh, according to that, you need to define your architecture roadmap. So it delivers the solution in architecture way. So first of all, you will create a roadmap. So as an enterprise architect, your main job, your main time is get consumed to create the architecture roadmap. So according to that, the solutions are basically delivered. You need to see what are the relationships between these different components or different pieces. So that is what we are going to see uh, in our upcoming lectures. That still I'm in a ADM. So first we will see what is ADM, then we will talk about. So far what we have discussed, ADM is having these 10 circles, but there are 9 uh, phases which considered as the ADM, right? But these are 10 circles, and it is the cycle which is basically followed by enterprise architect to create the architecture roadmap. So it is an iterative process, and it is basically recommended to define and deploy the enterprise architecture. If you have any question, you can ask. Rest of the thing we will discuss tomorrow. All right. So then let's stop this here. We'll wrap this session now, and we will meet tomorrow. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.